again. They both laughed. The next day, Isabella dressed in her best skirt and blouse, simple but sharp, and walked into La Fortuna's upper floor offices. Her stomach tightened as she knocked on the heavy oak door. "Come in," a deep voice said from inside. She stepped in and froze. Behind the desk sat Don Alessandro Romano, the same Alessandro she had met at the docks, the same name she'd cursed just days before. "Welcome back, Isabella," he said smoothly. "I trust you like your new position." "Thank you, sir," she said carefully, masking her surprise. "I want to sincerely apologize for what Valentina did. She was wrong, and I should never have believed her." "It's fine, sir," Isabella replied. "I've moved on." He studied her for a moment, then said, "You look beautiful today." Her spine stiffened. "Thank you, but if this is why you brought me back, I'm done." He raised his hands. "No, that's not it. My mistake. We'll keep this professional." "Good," she said, nodding curtly. That night, Isabella called the other Alessandro, the one she thought was just a struggling dock worker. "Babe, I don't like my boss. I think I want to quit." On the other end of the line, Alessandro smiled to himself but kept his voice concerned. "What happened?" He apologized, but then he started acting strange, telling me I look beautiful, asking me out. I shut him down, but I don't trust him. "Don't quit," he said firmly. "You need that job. Stand your ground if he tries anything again, but don't walk away." She hesitated. "All right, if you say so." Weeks passed. Isabella kept her head down, running paperwork, scheduling meetings, guarding the Don's time like a hawk. Then one afternoon, Alessandro called her into his office. "As my personal assistant, your position comes with certain benefits, a car, and a fully furnished apartment near the club." Isabella's eyes widened. "Sir, are you serious?" "Of course, you've earned it." But then his voice softened. "I still admire you, Isabella. You're beautiful, and I—" She cut him off, her tone firm. "Stop. I'm getting married soon. I'm in love with someone else. Please, let's keep this professional." He nodded slowly. "All right, professional it is." Minutes later, Isabella was on the phone to the dock worker Alessandro. "You won't believe this," she said. "My boss just gave me a car and a new apartment. Can you imagine?" He chuckled. "That's great news, babe. See, I told you not to quit." "You were right, and because of that, I'm taking you out this weekend. My treat." He smiled. "Babe, are you sure you can afford that?" "Don't worry about it. I insist." Saturday night came quick. Isabella spent the afternoon getting ready, wearing a simple but flattering navy dress and low heels. Classy, not flashy. This wasn't about impressing anyone. It was about showing appreciation. When dock worker Alessandro arrived in his beat-up Ford, she stepped out of her safe house with a smile. They drove toward the west side, the dim glow of street lamps bouncing off the wet cobblestones. The place she'd picked wasn't a regular joint. It was Il Gabbiano, a mob-owned supper club with white tablecloths, a live jazz trio, and enough shadowed corners for business to be done quietly. A waiter in a crisp vest led them to a cozy table near the window. "This place is beautiful," Alessandro said, glancing around. I grinned. I wanted something nice, but not so expensive I'd be washing dishes to pay for it. They looked over the menus, ordered a couple of plates, veal marsala for him and linguine alla vongela for her, and spent the next hour trading stories between bites. Isabella talked about her work, about the colorful characters she'd seen come in and out of La Fortuna. Alessandro mostly listened, his eyes steady, like every word she said mattered. When they were finished, Isabella reached for her purse. But before she could hand the bills over, the waiter shook his head politely. "Your bill's already been covered, signorina." "Covered?" she frowned. "By who?" The waiter only smiled. compliments of the house. She glanced at Alessandro suspiciously. You didn't... He raised his hands. Babe, I'm a broke dock worker. How could I afford this? She chuckled, shaking her head. Maybe they're running a special for people with my good looks. They shared a laugh, but Alessandro's eyes grew serious. He set his fork down and leaned forward slightly. Isabella, I need to ask you something important. Her spine softened. What is it? I know it might seem sudden, but I've never met a woman like you. You're kind, loyal, fearless. From the first day I met you, I knew you were different. I want you by my side. Will you marry me? For a moment, the din of the supper club faded away. Isabella's heart thudded hard against her ribs. She hadn't seen it coming, not this soon, but her answer came without hesitation. Yes, Alessandro, I will. A rare, unguarded smile broke across his face. You just made me the happiest man in the world. She laughed through tears, shaking her head. Nonna's going to have a field day with this. She'll say she told me so. Because she did, he said with a smirk. A few days after the proposal, Nonna Rosa called Isabella and invited her over for the weekend. Her voice on the phone carried that special excitement, the kind that makes you think she'd been waiting for this moment all her life. Saturday morning, Isabella put on a modest dress and caught a cab to the address Nonna had given her. She expected something like her own place, maybe a slightly bigger apartment, maybe closer to the market. But as the cab turned up the hill, her eyes widened. They passed through a quiet neighborhood lined with tall oaks and private drives, the kind of area only the big earners could afford. Then the cab stopped in front of a massive wrought iron gate with 2 stone lions standing guard. Beyond it was a mansion, grand white columns, manicured lawns, and a long driveway disappearing toward the house. She stared at the paper in her hand, then at the gate. This had to be a mistake. Quickly dialing Nonna, she said, Nonna, I think I'm at the wrong place. This looks like where the mayor should live. Her warm laugh came through the line. No, figlia mia, you're in the right place. Come inside. I'll explain everything. The gates opened without a word from the guard, who tipped his cap as she passed. Walking up the drive, her steps slowed with every marble step she climbed to the front door. Inside, the place smelled faintly of cigar smoke and polished wood. A sweeping staircase curled up toward the second floor. The walls were lined with oil portraits of men in fine suits, all of them with the same sharp Romano eyes. Nonna Rosa rose from a velvet armchair in the grand living room. My daughter, she said, embracing her warmly. Isabella pulled back slightly, still staring at the high ceiling and gold trim. Nonna, this house, you told me your son was broke, that he lived over a fish market. Nonna sighed and took her hand. I lied, Isabella. My son is Don Alessandro Romano. This is his house. This is his world. Isabella's mouth fell open. You mean Alessandro the dock worker is him, the Don? Yes, Nonna said softly. He never meant to deceive you, to hurt you. He needed to know if you'd stand by him without the money, without the power, and you did. That's why he chose you. Isabella shook her head slowly, pacing the room. You two made me believe he was barely scraping by? You let me think I was doing him a favor when all along? Nonna's eyes pleaded. Perdonami, figlia mia. We needed to know your heart. You passed the test. Isabella stopped pacing, breathing deep. I'm still mad, but I love you, and I love him, so I forgive you. Nonna clapped her hands, her eyes shining. I knew you were the right one. The wedding day came fast. Word spread through Little Italy like a summer fire. Don Alessandro Romano was marrying a woman from outside the old families. Not a rival's daughter, not some politician's niece, a civilian, and not just any civilian, the one who'd stood up to Valentina De Luca in his own club. The church was draped in white roses and crimson ribbons. Out front, Black Packards and Cadillacs lined the curb, their chrome shining in the morning sun. Men in double-breasted suits and fedoras stood shoulder to shoulder, each with the faint bulge of a piece under his jacket. Inside, the pews were packed with both friends and business associates, some smiling warmly, others sizing up the new bride with a cautious eye. Isabella walked down the aisle on Nonna Rosa's arm. The old matriarch beamed, proud as a queen. At the altar, Alessandro waited in a perfectly tailored black suit with a single white rose in his lapel. When Isabella reached him, he took her hand, his eyes steady but soft, the eyes of a man who had tested her, pushed her, and now trusted her completely. The vows were said in front of God, family, and a handful of priests who might or might not have been on the Romano payroll. When the kiss came, the church erupted in applause. The reception was held in La Fortuna itself, the club transformed with chandeliers, long banquet tables, and a live swing band. Halfway through the night, Don Alessandro stood and raised his glass. The chatter fell silent. "I want to tell you all something," he began, his voice carrying through the smoke-filled room. "When I met Isabella, I wasn't the Don to her. I was just a man she thought was struggling to get by. I wanted to see if she'd still stand by me with nothing in my pockets. She didn't just pass the test, she showed me what loyalty looks like when there's nothing to gain. That's the kind of woman you build an empire with." He turned to her, his gaze softening. "Bella, you've got the heart of a queen, and from this day on, this family, this city, and everything I am is yours." Glasses clinked, the band struck up a lively tune, and the party roared back to life. Later, as the guests danced and the deals were quietly discussed in the back rooms, Nonna Rosa leaned over to Isabella and whispered, "Remember, figlia mia, in this world, love is tested like loyalty. You've proven both." Isabella smiled, watching her husband across the room, shaking hands with capos and old friends. She knew the life ahead wouldn't be easy, but she also knew they'd face it together. And in the shadows of Little Italy, under the weight of the Romano name, she took her first steps as the Don's wife. Dear viewers, what lessons did you take away from this dramatic tale? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy the story, give us a thumbs up, share it with friends, and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest updates. Thanks for watching, and stay blessed.